I'm sick of people saying, oh, it's all about the personality.
No.
What is an arranged marriage?
So an arranged marriage, this is really important. It's a bit like Tinder. Instead of using algorithms to find you the perfect person, you're using the people who should love you the most, your parents.
Yes.
And who know you the best.
Interesting.
Well, they probably don't, because most Asian parents don't know their children.
Exactly.
There's a lot of choice involved.
I actually disagree with you when you say around choice.
Okay.
Choice is a difficult word in this situation, and I'll explain why.
You hear a lot about the perfect daughter-in-law.
Yes.
But there's also the perfect son-in-law, which is, get on well with the dad, do whatever he needs to do around the house and all that. So it's
DIY guru.
Rubbish at DIY. That expectation of the financial stability, house, job, it's showing any sign of weakness, whether that's mental health weakness as well, is a real issue. And mental health problems are really prevalent in the Asian community, not talked about.
One thing that I don't think is spoken about is... Hey everyone, and welcome back to Millennial Mind. This is my first episode in this new studio, and I have one really quick favour to ask from all of you. If you haven't already, wherever you're watching or listening to this podcast, if you could press the follow and subscribe button, it would really mean the world to me. Thank you so much for supporting me on this journey here. Let's get into it, because I cannot wait for you to see my new studio and my incredible guest today. Dr. Amir, welcome to Millennial Mind.
Thank you for having me. I'm really pleased to be here.
I love how I had to call you Dr. Amir and I didn't call you Amir.
Call me that.
Well,
my patients call me Dr. Amir. No.
Really? Oh, is it Amir? I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine.
God, should we start again? Let's start that again. Sorry about that.
No, you know what? Let's not start it again, because I think there's always a kind of I'm not even Amir. I even call myself Amir, but my name is Amir. And with every Asian name, it feels like there's a white way to say it and an Asian way to say it.
So true.
And I've been called Amir all my life because of school, and I've never corrected anyone. And now when people say my name properly, I say, no, it's Amir, which is so weird, isn't it?
That is so weird. Yeah. How interesting.
Yes.
But thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
I'm so grateful to have you here, and very happy we've moved this from a Saturday to a Friday.
Yes. That's just because I didn't look at my diary properly. I am sorry.
No, it's so fine. So for people who don't know who you are, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I think first and foremost, I'm an NHS GP full-time in Bradford, which is, big up Bradford. But I also write, so I'm a Sunday Times best-selling author. I appear on ITV's Good Morning Britain and Lorraine. Lots of people may know me from that, or GPs Behind Closed Doors on Channel 5. And some people may know me from my love of nature. So I'm the president of the RSPB, which is the biggest bird charity in the world, and the vice president of the Wildlife Trust. So
that's amazing.
Lots of kind of fingers in pies.
So from being on perhaps every single TV show, and every single TV channel, you wrote this book, How Not to Have an Arranged Marriage.
Yes.
Why?
Because I was looking for a topic to write about. I knew I had to write another book, and everybody says write about what you know, don't they? And I haven't had an arranged marriage. I haven't. I have to make that clear.
Okay.
But me and my family, and my sister, I've got 6 sisters, and
oh my gosh,
and so
wow.
I feel like I was present for a lot of those kind of rishte that came.
Yeah.
and so I've been through a few arranged marriage dates myself. I just feel the whole arranged marriage thing is so rich in stories, comedy, drama, emotion, depending on where you're coming at it from. And there's so many different perspectives, like the Western kind of perspective, because you and I have both been brought up here, and kind of having that cultural, traditional thing imposed on us almost and expected of us, but also from our parents' point of view, who don't want to lose their culture,
of course,
and bringing that over here and trying to, it's almost like fitting a square peg into a circular hole, isn't it?
Yes.
They want to force something that may not fit. And I think there's just lots to be told about that.
For sure. No, I completely agree. The idea of marriage has always been brought up for me from a very young age. I've spoken about it a lot on my platform, and I've spoken a lot about how it's been the number one question that everybody asks me. So I think a lot of people are going to be very happy with this podcast, because we're going to be talking about it from a male perspective.
Yes.
Because naturally, I only ever speak about my own perspectives. And ever since I was younger, it was always, you better learn how to cook so that you can get married. You better learn how to do well in school, because you don't want to rely on your husband too much, because you don't want him to, walk all over you. You better learn how to do this, this, and this, because your mother-in-law one day is going to ask you for it. I still remember being restricted on doing certain things because it was always thinking about a marriage prospect or a marriage perspective. perhaps not being restricted, sorry, but being made aware. You know, what will your mother-in-law think? What will your future father-in-law think? I don't bloody know. I'm 14. I don't know what they're going to think. So I think it's really important for us to have this conversation from a male perspective. So talk to me. When did you first hear about the idea of marriage?
So I mean, I must have been aware of it for from a very young age. I can't remember the exact age of which I became aware of marriage itself.
Yeah.
My parents were married, so I just assumed it was the normal thing to do. And then I think the idea of having an arranged marriage was always instilled in me, and it was normal.
Really?
I didn't expect to have anything but an arranged marriage.
Really?
Yeah. There's a big age gap between me and my elder sister. So when my elder sister had her arranged marriage, I must have been about 9 or 10.
Got it.
And so it was such a big event. And it just seems, it was normal. And
Right.
So I always expected to have an arranged marriage. Nothing, the idea, I mean, the opposite of arranged marriage is like a love marriage, isn't it? With frowned.
Yeah.
Scandalous love.
Were they actually? So they were frowned upon to have a love marriage?
Like,
You're joking.
Like my mum and her mates, like all aunties will gossip, won't they? And if somebody had a love marriage, it was like, oh, they had a love marriage. Or worse still, if a love marriage broke up, they're like, yes, well, that's because it was a love marriage. But if it was an arranged marriage, they're just like, oh, well, it's God's choice.
So so let's just distinguish between, my parents had a love marriage, right? So and everyone in my family, I don't know anyone who's had an arranged marriage, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
weirdly.
they're very different then.
Very different. Very different. But let's just talk around what is an arranged marriage?
So an arranged marriage, this is really important, I think, to distinguish what it is. There's a lot of choice involved. So basically, people are making decisions. It starts off with the elders in the community. And that elders in the community sounds like such an old-fashioned term, doesn't it? Like we live in a tribe.
Yeah.
That's not true. But the parents, obviously,
Right.
when a person, a man or a woman, come off age, again, now I feel like I'm in Downton Abbey or something, but when they come off age, the word spreads, doesn't it, in the community?
Yeah.
Right, we're looking for this person. We need to find a match. And it's all done with the best intentions.
Agree.
The idea is that they want to find someone that is suitable for you, who will work with you in partnership through your life and help you achieve the things you want to achieve. That's the idea, in theory.
Right.
And essentially what happens is our parents will have a criteria by which they want to find someone. And depending on, and this is the tricky thing, and these are the things I address in the book, a lot of it, it's almost like top trumps, isn't it? And you score highly on your job.
Oh, absolutely.
Live, how fair your skin is.
Yep.
All of these kind of things, how
body
tall
built.
you are as
Yes.
a bloke.
Yeah.
All
If
of those
your size as a woman.
size as a woman, hair.
Yeah, hair. Huge. Hair is huge.
So I feel like
Yeah.
we used to play top trumps as a kid, and I think we could have top trumps where they score it. And I feel I would
So funny.
I definitely would not be a top trump card. But
funny.
so then once matches are found, it's almost like giving the person who's then getting married, that's when they get involved, don't they? So they will be given a choice, going, look, this is the person we found. This is why we like them. Would you like to meet them? And that choice is the key part of the arranged marriage. That's what separates it from a forced marriage, which is illegal and not the same thing at all. And if you are getting forced to marry anyone, you should be calling the police.
Right.
So the idea is you then approve a pre-approved person by your parents, and you meet them. And depending on how things are, and I think modern day arranged marriages are, you get to date at that stage. So you meet the families, and then you get to know each other by yourselves. And if things go well,
Great.
get engaged, you might get married. Hopefully you'll get married. If they don't, go back to square one, get the word out in the elders again, and go back. What I think it is, and what I liken it to in the book, is a bit like Tinder. Instead of using algorithms to find you the perfect person, you're using the people who should love you the most, your parents, and who know you the best.
Interesting.
Well, they probably don't, because most Asian parents don't know their children.
Exactly. I don't think there's an openness to discuss different things like sexuality here.
Yeah.
Because what it's in Asian culture, it's very difficult if you haven't had that conversation with your parents to then say to them, okay, well, I'm gay or I'm bi or I'm trans or whatever, and I would like to find somebody like that. because that would be a whole nother
I
conversation.
don't think our culture has got to that point.
It hasn't.
I'm hoping it does in
Exactly.
generations to come, but and there will be, you know, cases
Definitely.
where it has, and that is a wonderful thing. And I'm hoping that opens out more in the future, but we're certainly
Exactly.
nowhere near where we need to be when it comes to those things.
Which is why I actually disagree with you when you say around choice.
Okay.
Choice is a difficult word in this situation, and I'll explain why. When you say choice, it means that there's no repercussions, is what I'm hearing, right? So when we compare it to Tinder or Bumble or any of these apps, if I were to go on one of these apps and I was to go on a date with somebody, and let's say I go on 5 dates with them, and then after 5 dates, I'm like, actually, you're a weirdo, I don't want to meet you anymore, right? If my parents were to find me a nice boy in my community who they are good family friends with, or, you know, they've met 5-6 times and they're thinking, yes, my daughter and your son are the perfect compatibility. We've got this top trump card of both of them are aligned in every single way. And I go on 5 dates with him.
Yes.
There is a pressure,
Yes.
I feel, where I don't have so much of a choice to say no. And what I mean by that is I completely agree with you. It's totally different now when it's not forced, by the way. And you do date people before you make the decision, obviously. It's not like before where I think in my parents' generation, it was you were arranged, like, in the sense that you have a choice, but you have a choice to say yes or no.
Yes.
The generation before that was like, listen, we've got this man off the street. You're getting married tomorrow. Yeah, you ready? Yeah, get ready. So I think when we say choice, we have to be careful in the sense that we have to make sure that we're aware of, in some situations with certain families where they're a little bit more traditional, there might be pressure to make sure that it works out. And I think that's why some people are nervous when their parents introduce them to someone, because there is that element of you can date now. So when you've gone on 10, 15 dates with someone within your community, and let's say you've met at an event, and let's say the aunties are gossiping about it, saying, oh, did you know so-and-so's son and so-and-so's daughter, and now they've met, the parents sometimes feel there's a pressure.
Yeah. But that takes away the choice, and then it stops being an arranged marriage in the way that it should.
Definitely.
And it's because other people are invested in your relationship, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I would argue that if you were to go on a date, 5 dates with someone on Tinder, and you told your parents about them, and you said you were quite happy with it, and they then became invested in that relationship, probably not in the same way because they didn't help sort it out, but they would also be sad if that broke up.
For sure.
Wouldn't they?
For sure. I think it's more around, there is still this huge thing around keeping things within our culture.
Yes.
You know, there is. And I think people are sometimes too afraid to say that. I've heard it so many times. Make sure you marry within your community. Make sure you marry someone that's Indian. Doesn't matter if they're from, you know, a different caste now, but they have to be Indian. And it's almost ingrained within us.
It is. And it's hard then for people to break out of that indoctrination almost.
Yes.
But I'm pleased that people are, because we shouldn't think of it as diluting our culture. Our culture is something that changes over time, over generations, regardless of whether you keep things in or out of your culture. But spreading your culture to other people and embracing theirs, I think, is what we should be doing more of.
Absolutely.
It's really hard because historically, you know, as people from historically marginalized populations, we've had other cultures imposed upon us. And if you go back to the British rule in India and Pakistan and Bangladesh, their culture and values were imposed upon us. Their laws were imposed upon us. And when that happens, people automatically try and retain whatever culture and heritage that they may have. And I think that is part of the problem. We want to hold on to things. When people move over to countries like here, because, again, you know, we're holding on to those values. We don't want them to be diluted. Often we hold on to values which become very much outdated. And you go back to India and Pakistan, nobody's doing the same thing.
So true.
But we're holding on to them because our parents, certainly, they're so worried about it being lost to future generations, whether that's our language, our religious beliefs, or just the way we do weddings, you know, all of that. You know, if I say to my mum now, actually, mum, I want a small wedding, she'll think it's because we're living here and that's what white folk do. And so that, you know, but all of that. So it's really complex in terms of why people want to hold on to their cultures and why people want to marry within their communities. And I think it goes back to all that historical stuff.
Absolutely.
But we've got to find a way to move on from it and spread our culture. That's the key, I think. We're spreading it and we're embracing others. And that mixing of people and cultures, it's like, you know, that's only a beautiful thing.
Exactly. I think we've got to move away from it being scary and almost going in one direction or the other. You can have both. It doesn't have to be an either or. So your sister got married when you were 10, did you say?
Yeah. I remember having to rehearse dance routines in the...
So now tell me, when it was the idea of you having an arranged marriage? Because unlike my experience, yours was you were definitely going to have an arranged marriage. So that conversation must have started early, right?
It started early, and then inadvertently I became a bit of a defender for arranged marriages. So all through school, people would ask me, or even at university, are you going to have an arranged marriage? I was like, yeah, aren't you? They were like, no.
What university did you go
I went
to?
to Liverpool.
Oh my God.
But nobody has arranged marriages.
Everyone's probably like, what?
Yeah.
Do you want an escape route?
Yes,
Are
that
you
was it.
okay?
Like, blink twice, but like, help. but I was not against it. I was actually looking forward to it. I thought, oh, this will save me a job. And
Okay.
So when people were questioning it and really questioning it in a negative way, you find yourself in a position defending something you don't quite understand yourself and why you are defending it. But I just knew that's what was going to happen to me.
Right.
And then after I finished university, I worked in Liverpool for a while. And that's when the pressure really came on to find someone. And that's when you go away to university, you really mature, don't you? And that's when I realized perhaps that isn't what I wanted for myself.
Yeah.
And certainly when you're working in places like hospitals where there's such a kind of mishmash of different people and different perspectives, and you see what life is really all about, you kind of think, well, actually, you know what? There's more to this than what I initially thought.
Yeah.
It wasn't that I wasn't happy with the idea of arranged marriage. I just thought, well, that's one option now, and now I've got other ways that I might find the person for me, and so I was less kind of stuck on that idea as I matured. And I think once I moved out of the family home, everybody does this, don't they? They mature, they find themselves, they develop their own thoughts, and that's when it kind of became a bit looser for me, the idea of arranged marriages.
And at what point was someone introduced to you?
Oh God! So I remember. So I was away. I was a junior doctor in Liverpool.
Right. So you already ticked that box for your parents.
Well,
They're probably very happy about it.
Profession, isn't
Yeah,
it?
literally. Probably like, my son is a doctor.
He's a doctor.
Yeah.
I thought that would be enough to find me like the perfect wife. Boy, was I wrong.
Oh God.
So my mum sent me she sent me a text message actually.
Right.
And she's via my sister, because my mum doesn't type text messages. She just said, make sure, and it was a really short message, and I thought it was a joke because it came from my sister's phone. It said, make sure you bring a good shirt when you come home this weekend because we're going to see someone for you.
Okay.
And I just replied, ha ha, very good. And then when I got home, she was like, right, go and put your shirt on. We're going. And this poor girl lived in Cardiff. So it's like a 4-hour drive.
You're joking.
No, but I'll come on to that.
Why this poor girl lived in Cardiff? What do you mean, poor you who had to drive there?
Poor me, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, also poor her. I just wasn't into it. But so when I got home and I said to my mum, she was like, oh, go and put your shirt on, we're going. And I'm like, Mum, what are you on about?
Yeah.
And I said, no, Mum, I thought you were joking. She went, no, but you've agreed to it. I went, did I? And then she pulled out the text, and because I'd put ha ha, she thought I meant yes, as in to ha.
Oh my God, that's too good.
So then I had to go because she like told them, and we were like,
oh
and it was
my
all,
gosh.
And I just thought it was a whole big joke, and it was such a disaster from start to finish.
Okay,
First
tell
of
me.
All my sisters wanted to come, which was a nightmare.
6 of them.
Well, because of a car, we could only take 3.
I was just going to say, how did you all fit in the car? Right, okay.
Yeah, my mum had to like select a selection of sisters.
Were they selected by their job and their height and their top trump card too?
I think it's just
Present the best options.
Yeah, 3 eldest.
Yeah.
Because and then we got there, and this girl, she just, a bit like my sisters might have done, and in fact they will have done. So so you'll know this, but traditionally the blokes go over to the girl's house first, don't
Yes.
they? And when this was happening with my sisters, some of them, not all of them, would look out the window when they arrived and would make their decision just by looking out the window.
Yes.
I think this girl might have made a negative decision about me at this point. So we went into this house. It was a beautiful house. They were. I mean, bearing in mind, we came from like a terraced house in Bradford.
Right.
They lived in this beautiful, it's almost like a mansion in Cardiff. We were walking.
Wow.
We had to like drive through a long drive to get there. My mum was like, she thought she'd arrived in Buckingham Palace. And so like we were already out of our depth at that point. And so when we got there, the mum and dad opened the door, took us into this big open plan, beautiful room. And it was all just a bit quiet. Nobody was really talking. And it's always awkward, isn't it? First of all,
proper Buckingham Palace vibes.
Yeah, exactly.
No one's speaking. Everyone's just staring.
Well, the thing is, all your life you're told, aren't you? Don't talk to girls because they will,
course.
you will bring shame.
Move on to the family, yeah, if anyone sees
like,
you.
Talk. And
also in front of your mum and three sisters.
Yeah.
Awkward.
You bring the banter.
Yeah.
So anyway, and then eventually the girl kind of gets paraded in like a show pony, doesn't
Right,
it?
did she bring you tea?
No, she didn't bring tea. I know.
Red flag for your mum. Your mum was probably like, nope. Yeah.
So she came in and she spent about 5 minutes with me and then she left. And then slowly, and this is the weirdest thing that's ever happened to us, I think. Slowly, every family member left. And it was just us, me and my sisters and my mum in the room. And before that, actually, they did bring in tea. And instead of, normally when you travel far, you expect
obviously
samosa.
Yeah, obviously.
But they just brought in a box of Ritz crackers, like still in the box.
So...
like those cereal box Ritz crackers. And they passed the box around. So anyway, slowly, this family left. And it was just us in the room. And then the lights went out. I'm not even joking. The lights went off.
What time was this?
About 9 o'clock in the evening. No, maybe about 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening.
Was it summer? Was it winter?
It was dark, so it must have been winter.
Winter? Oh my gosh.
And I said to Mum, I think they're trying to tell us something. And we just got our coats and we had to see ourselves out. That is the biggest rejection I've ever had.
You are joking.
On the way home, I was driving and everybody was a bit like, what's just happened? And then there was like this crunching noise coming from the back and my mum had taken the crackers. She'd taken them. And I said, Mum, what's going on? She was like, I'll show them. I'll take their crackers. They can't do our beer like that.
Hold on. You went to meet a girl.
Yeah, for 5 minutes.
4-hour
drive.
Her entire family left you in their house. Yes. They turned the lights off and then your mum stole the Ritz crackers.
We had to see ourselves out. We had to like cross a moat to get to our car. I'm not joking. It was like, honestly, it was a beautiful house though. It was worth going just for the house.
Is that a joke?
No, that is 100% true.
Did you ever hear for them?
No, never. And my mum would never ring them now, obviously, because it's so embarrassing for us.
Oh my God. I hope that girl who is watching this podcast, can you please dial in and tell us your side of the story? And why you did that?
I can't even remember your name. Please ring and tell me what I did wrong.
Yeah, that's so mean. That's actually really mean.
She was taller than me. I think that might have been it.
Okay, this is where I think that men get annoyed on my podcast, because if a woman was in your position and a man did that, everyone would go in.
Yeah.
And it's the same the other way. I think that's really cruel.
I'm
just laughing because your mum stole the crackers. That's just cracking me up.
Now I can laugh about it. Well, that's when I decided, you know what? I'm not sure about this whole thing. Because that was brutal. That was really brutal.
The lights off is so funny.
It's so bizarre. And you know how... Because it was so open plan, it was a bit like the light, you could see the lights coming off. So one room would go off and then another room and then our room went off. So you kind of saw.
But when they were leaving the room, what did they say? Okay, see you later.
No, they didn't. They just said that one of them left and then another one left. And they were like, oh, I'll go and see what they're doing. And then none of them came back. But I'm still mentally, I'm over it now.
How old were you?
25.
Oh my gosh, that's so mean. That's so funny. Sorry, I'm cracking up, but I'm also like, it's a bit mean.
Honestly, I am. Enough time has passed that I can laugh.
So tell me, what did that experience show you? And you said like it started to tell you that, actually you don't want to do this whole arranged marriage thing.
You know what it did? It was a bit like the expectations put on girls that they have to be able to cook and they have to be able to do this and that. I think there's a set of expectations on boys as well, which I learned about on this 4-hour journey down, which is you have to be financially stable in yourself, but you also then have to be able to provide for the lady. And then where are you going to live? Is it going to be with your parents? What is that going to be like? Because we all hear horror stories of mother-in-laws and daughter-in-laws. Yeah. And is my mum ready for this and all of this kind of stuff? The expectation there is it's really heavy, and going there with those expectations, but also that kind of, you have to talk and you have to sell yourself almost to this family who you've never met before, you've never spoken to, and then you have to talk to the girl and sell yourself to her. I mean, it's so hard, isn't it?
There's a significant difference between selling yourself to a set of parents and an entire family and doing that to the girl that you're going to be with.
Yes.
You know, when I hear my boyfriend speak on a work call, I literally say to him, I have to go to another room because I can't stop laughing at you because you sound so ridiculous. And he's like, what do you mean? Like, that's how I speak on a work call. And I'm like, it's really weird, okay? And if you spoke to me like that, I would think you were weird. But it's because he has to put on a different lens to obviously when he speaks to me. So when he meets my family, he's naturally going to be a lot more serious, a bit more conservative, and he's not going to be like that with me. Now, if we met with my entire family and he was that conservative to me, I would think he was a bit of a, he was just really conservative, but he's not.
Yeah, you're a different person.
You're a different person, and I don't think that arranged setting really allows for that to happen.
And I think the arranged setting is the introduction, isn't it?
Correct.
It's just whether you have a connection of some sort that you can nurture, perhaps, and then you move on and meet the next person. Oh, not
and
the
I
next
think...
person, you meet that person again over time.
Done with you.
Yeah, next.
One thing that I don't think is spoken about is how much you need to do as a man before you get married.
Yeah.
You've just said you've talked about financial pressure, but let's not forget, the tradition is that the man proposes. So you need to propose with a ring. Yes. And it has to be a nice ring, otherwise everyone else is going to criticise you for it. Apparently you have to pay for the honeymoon.
Yeah.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
And if you don't take them on to a really nice place, and God forbid you don't go first class, you're a failure of a man, right? I don't think that, by the way, before somebody attacks me. I'm just joking. I have to say joke after everything. Joke. No, I have to specify I'm joking because people seem now to attack me for everything. And the third thing is you have to provide a house.
Yes.
Because if you live in your wife's house, you're not seen to be man enough.
No. And you have to do this about age 25, 26. Who can do that now?
It's impossible. I can't even buy my own bloody house.
Yeah.
Let alone afford to buy my own jewellery. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's impossible. So did you have that pressure?
Well, I just spent 6 years at university, so I was riddled with debt. And also, the other thing you do as an Asian man is give money to your parents as well from your wage. So I was giving money to my mum. I was paying off my debts. I was living in rented accommodation. But at the same time, and you can't talk about finances.
No.
So I couldn't say to my mum, you know what, mum, I've got 50 grand worth of debt from university. I'm not sure now is the right time for number one, for you to be taking all my money, but number two, to then bring someone else into the picture. Because they just assume you'll get on with it, it'll be fine. And actually, my mum, even though all the way through my kind of older teenage and younger 20s, she was like, you won't have to live with me. You won't have to live with me. And then when the time came, she went, you will live with me. Or I will live
You're
with
my
you.
only son. Yeah. And do you live with her now?
No, God, no.
I really hope she's not watching this podcast. You're like,
she knows
thank
I don't live
God, I don't. Yeah, but maybe she doesn't know your reaction is like, oh God, no, thank God.
Natural reaction.
Wasn't even proposals, just like, thank God I don't live with you, Mum.
No, and I love her. She is a force to be.
Well done for saying that. Yeah, well done. Yeah, did you hear that? Yeah. But it's interesting because being a doctor is the number one thing that any Asian parent wants you to do. By the way, I don't care what anyone says.
True.
If you say my son is a doctor, he is the king of the world. But it's such a low-paying salary, especially at the moment with everything that's going on. You're overworked. Yeah. You're not paid for your time. Yeah. And then you're expected also as a doctor to further your education constantly and also get married by the age of 25.
And everybody thinks you're rich. Literally everybody thought I was.
What planet are you living on? Yeah.
Exactly.
But I think now they don't because you see all the NHS strikes online. Thank God for that.
But yes, so there's all that pressure, and you then have to play. Where you hear a lot about the perfect daughter-in-law.
Yes.
But there's also the perfect son-in-law, which is, get on well with the dad, do whatever he needs to do around the house and all that. So it's
DIY guru.
I'm rubbish at DIY. And I went out with this girl through an arranged marriage process for a long time, and I became very good at DIY.
Okay.
I don't even like playing football, but I was playing football with her sons, and with her brothers. Yeah, it's a very modern arranged marriage with her brothers, and then taking the auntie out for breakfast. There's a lot to do whilst working, whilst living. Often the people don't live in the same city as you. And there's a lot. There's the perfect son-in-law.
What else is the perfect son-in-law?
Gosh, what else is the perfect son-in-law? turning up to a lot of events. I'm telling you what my mum expects from her, because she's got 6 son-in-laws, and
Of course. Oh my
yeah.
gosh.
And so they have to, she has a lot of dinner parties. My mum, they have to come to it. Otherwise, it's like she will ring them up if they don't turn up and find out why they're not there and make them come.
So funny.
But also, like, it's just the kind of, you're playing. You want to be embedded in someone's family. I think that's part of what marriage is.
Yeah.
But I think with arranged marriages, because it's such a big connection between 2 families, in a way that maybe some other cultures are not, you're expected to divide your time between the 2 families. And that often leaves not very much time for you and your missus and your kids and all of that kind of stuff. Because on a Saturday, you've got to go and see one family. On the Sunday, you've got to go and see the other family. If you spend too much time with one side, the other side
gets offended. Yeah.
And so all of that, I think that's equal both on son and daughter-in-laws. But
it is.
That expectation of the financial stability, house, job, showing any sign of weakness, whether that's mental health weakness as well, is a real issue. And mental health problems are really prevalent in the Asian community. Not talked about. I see it all the time in work, because I work in inner city Bradford. We see a lot of Asian people. A lot of Asian people have mental health issues. But all of that is swept under the carpet, because as the son-in-law, you have a very toxic masculinity role to play. And anything less than that is just not seen as fulfilling your duty as someone who married their daughter.
You talk a lot about duty as a son-in-law. How did that financial burden and also financial expectation impact your mental health?
Really, really badly, because I couldn't talk about it with anyone. And I was, as a junior doctor, I was living hand to mouth. There were times where I when I went to the supermarket, I wasn't sure whether my card was going to work and all of that kind of stuff. That's fine. It makes me who I am now. Now I really appreciate the position I'm in now, not having to think about those kind of things anymore. But not being able to say that, and at the same time thinking, God, next year I might have to somehow find somewhere to live and provide, and not being able to talk to anyone about it. It was really difficult. And I think with other cultures, families and parents provide the financial support to people in those positions, and we don't tend to get that the other way round. We don't get it as much in Asian culture.
What do you mean?
So obviously I went to university in Liverpool. I was still working in the hospitals with all the people I went to university with.
Right.
And their parents would help them buy them a house and help them buy them a car and that kind of thing. But I'm from a very working class family, and lots of Asian people, particularly from my parents' generation, are working class.
So they depend on the child.
They depend on us.
Interesting.
And I don't have a problem with that. Where I can help my family, I always will. But seeing that in other cultures, you kind of, it almost gives you a sense of resentment. You're going, why am I having to do this when they're not? And then they progress in different ways through life because they've got that financial support in a way that you
perhaps
can't.
Wouldn't.
Yeah.
I think actually, in North London, where I'm from, it is actually the opposite way around, where a lot of people come from either middle class or upper class families. They support their children a lot. Okay. Now, the problem with that, I think, is that they don't learn how to do things themselves. And you're so dependent on your family that as a Nepo baby, if you've heard this term, Nepo baby.
I haven't, actually.
So Nepo baby is essentially when you're in a certain field, like let's say someone's an actor, and then their child gets into that field because of you. But there are a lot of people that I know that have grown up with really well-off parents, and their parents have helped them fund their businesses. Their parents have helped them start a house. Yeah. Now, there's twofold to that. Why not if you have the affordability? Then the other side to it is actually a lot of those children are very deeply insecure because they don't feel they've done it themselves. So when you meet someone, they're telling you, oh, I wake up at 5 a.m. and I go to sleep at 1 a.m. because I work so hard. Did you know that? I just wanted to let you know that I work really hard. And I'm like, that's great, fantastic, good for you, And what you see in those kind of families is those people actually feel they can't say no to their parents on certain things. Yeah. So they introduce them to someone. This person's of this particular wealth or class or whatever they do. Yeah. And they actually feel when they're introduced, they can't say no. Because they've been introduced to someone that their parents are marking their seal of approval for. Okay. So it's almost like a very traditional way of looking at it, almost like Gubby Gush Gubby Gum, you know, when he meets someone who is from a completely different background to him and he loves her.
Yeah. See, I think I must move in very different circles to those people.
It is. Yeah.
So there's two sides to each.
Definitely.
Each bit, isn't it? I'm listening to that. I'm really glad.
Yeah.
The way I did it.
Exactly.
It's tough, but you know, it's worth it.
Absolutely.
And now I can support my family in a way that I never could before.
I love that. I think it's so nice as well to have that privilege and that honor, and to spoil them as well. You know, it makes me so happy when I can do things with my mum that you know we never got to do before. Yeah. So, talking around arranged marriages, soulmates. Do you believe in soulmates?
You know, I was having this exact conversation. I train GPs as well. So I've got a GP trainee who's just started with us. And when they start in August, because they... Is
this their starting question?
Yeah. Are you married?
Yeah.
Who are you looking for? Do you want me to set you up with anyone?
Do you believe in soulmates? Welcome to the GP world.
Yeah, exactly. This is part of training. So I actually do believe in soulmates.
Oh, do you?
I think it's because I have found mine. I don't often talk about it, and I don't...
Yes.
But I have found mine. And I'm really happy. And before that, I didn't believe in soulmates. And it was, you know, it was at first sight, like it is in the books and movies. It was like that.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's the only way to find a person.
Right.
I think as with everything in life, there are different ways to find the person for you. And I believe in love at first sight and finding your soulmate that way, because that's how it's happened to me. But I also think that idea that arranged marriages are kind of built around, where you kind of find someone you have a connection with and they become your soulmate, is also viable. Because if you look at it from a dating point of view, you might meet someone you just think, oh, I'm not quite sure. Everybody's had someone who grows on them.
Correct, 100%.
And someone who you wouldn't think about romantically, suddenly you are starting to think about romantically. Yes. And that person then becomes your soulmate. And it's almost like, you know, when people talk about having a relationship, a romantic relationship based on friendship, and then moving that along
definitely
a little bit. And I think in terms of because human beings are so complex, our emotions are so complex that there can't be one way to find someone.
No.
And I do believe in soulmates. I do think there's different ways to find your soulmate.
Yeah.
And if you haven't got love at first sight, who cares? You will find someone in a different way. And don't be afraid. I've had so many people say to me, I mean, this I sound like my mum now, but when my sisters were like, when potential suitors were coming for them, and if my mum was looking within the pool of people we already knew,
right,
my sisters would go, "Oh no, I've never thought of him like that before. I've never thought of him like that before." I was like, "Well, think of him like that then. You know, change just."
I can't wait till you're a dad and you're literally going to be saying all of these things to your children,
like a really old.
Yeah.
Look, it's not that, you know, you can switch the way you think about people.
I don't think you can.
I think you can.
No.
Yes. Why not?
Well, it depends. If you've met them when they were 10 years old and you meet them when they're 30, that's a different situation. But if you've grown up with somebody and you've seen them in only, you know, like a friendly manner, you can't suddenly find them attractive unless you haven't seen them for a while. Yeah. Is what I mean.
Or if they have like a makeover.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. So obviously, if you've seen them, if I saw someone last week, I don't think I'm going to change my mind on seeing them this week.
No, but it's not suddenly changing your mind. It's just say, can you work with this? Is there potential?
Oh my God, you're making me laugh so much.
I sound like an old Asian aunt.
This is meant to be a serious podcast, and I'm cracking up at everything you're saying.
I just think there's lots of different options. That's why I think that's nice about options. I think arranged marriage is one option to find someone.
Fine.
I think different ways to find your soulmate as well.
So seeing as you're this love guru, okay, I've realised this.
I've written a book now. So.
Yeah, you are. So there are a lot of people that are struggling to find people. And I think one of those reasons is we have an abundance of choice. Now, when you have too much choice, it is impossible to choose an option. There was a study done where they asked these participants to choose of different jams. And when they gave them, I think, 55 jams or something ridiculous, nobody could choose their favourite jam. They gave them 5 and everyone chose an option. Now, the problem with all of these dating apps at the moment is there are so many options and you always feel like you're missing out. Not only are there options within your own country, you can go on holiday and find a date and fall in love.
Yes.
Right? And now these, you've romanticized, finding love at first sight because it's happened for you. Yeah. You'll hear people saying that I went on holiday for a hen, I went on a date and now we're married. Yeah. And so it opens options for other people to think, well, that can happen to me. Yeah. And I think it can happen.
Definitely happen. I think, again, relating it back to arranged marriages, one of the things we've always been told, don't consider too many options at once, is it?
Yes.
Narrow it down, because your brain can't. It's a bit like, I don't know about you, but if I'm trying to book a holiday,
Impossible
it's
for me.
impossible
Yeah.
because you go, oh, I want to go to Vietnam, but actually Thailand looks better, but Australia, and the flight there is only an hour longer and it'll be warmer.
Yes.
So it's a bit like that, isn't it? If you have too many options, your brain, it can't
process it,
and it will just say, well, actually, we're not going to make a decision. I think if you're struggling, and I had to give this advice to my younger sister, because she had, she was very lucky. She had lots of options, but she just wouldn't pick one. And so I think what you've got to do is take your eggs out of the basket, crack them open and get rid of them and just keep one, and focus all your attention on there. But the key has to be, and my soulmate, I found love at first sight, but there's been so much compromise in that relationship, so much. I knew the connection was there. I knew this was the person for me.
How did you know that?
I
Don't say you just knew, Amir.
I want to say
you're a doctor. Tell me the scientific process map, right?
Yeah.
Tell me all of the details of how you just know.
Well, I can tell you scientifically what was happening inside of me. My oxytocin must have gone up, which is my love hormone.
How am I meant to measure that? If someone's sitting at home,
love hormone's going up. If you know someone, your oxytocin will go up. This is the love hormone. Your stress hormone, cortisol, will come down.
I'm always stressed, Amir.
But that's. Are you stressed around your partner though?
No, sometimes, yeah, of course I am.
Not all the time.
Not all the time.
Just the person
joking.
that makes you the least stressed.
Yes,
being around him makes you the least stressed.
But so does my dog. So how am I meant to know the difference?
Well, again, it's the hormones that are flowing inside of you. But in terms of how I just knew, I think this person makes me laugh. Immediately there was that physical attraction.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Do you think there needs to be physical attraction in a relationship?
Yes.
I'm sick of people saying, oh, it's all about the personality.
No.
Because being attracted to somebody isn't just about being physical, physically attracted to them. But I do think there needs to be some sort of physical attraction if you're going to spend the rest of your life with that person.
And I think that's harder to grow into, the physical attraction side.
Well, not for you. You say that people can grow. I'm joking. Not for your kids. You're going to be like, you'll grow to love them.
No.
We'll just change the colour of their hair. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, nice. But I think what I'm trying to say is, in terms of options, I think you can have too many options. And if you found someone that there's even the smallest spark with, it doesn't mean you have to commit to them for the rest of your life. But what you should do is focus on that person or one or two people, and say, right, are the compromises I need to make this relationship work, are they too much for me to bear? And if the answer is yes, move on to the next person. If the answer is no, I want to, these compromises don't seem insurmountable, and there will be no relationship that doesn't come with compromise. I sound like Auntie Stigma from...
You do. I was just going to say, do you want my biometrics?
But compromise is the key to relationships, whether that's with your family or whether it's that. And
what's the percentage? Tell me.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, you're not aligned with her. She says 70%.
Did she?
You'll only find 70%.
That might be true, actually. She's a wise woman, Auntie Stigma. She is.
I met her in Mumbai, actually. I'll tell you about it after. But anyway, compromise is a difficult one, especially the older you get.
Yes.
And the reason I say that is because we're all told at the moment, you are the most perfect, amazing, especially as women. I will say this. As women, we are told, stand your ground. You're beautiful, whatever you look like. You're beautiful as you are. Learn to love yourself. And the self-love club is growing more and more, which I also feel I'm part of, because I believe in that you should love yourself, right? The problem with that, though, sometimes is we do believe that we shouldn't compromise on things, because we believe that someone should appreciate us for the way that we are and love us for who we are, right? And I'm talking about this from a female perspective. I don't know what the kind of perspective is on men. And I think that can be tricky sometimes, because we're taught that, everything in life is perfect. You'll go online and you'll see your favourite celebrities and they'll be loved up and you'll be like, they live the most amazing life. And my partner won't even take the bins out. Yeah. And so we're kind of torn at this point. The older we get, in terms of, it's very difficult to change your habits. And I do understand our parents telling us to meet someone when we're younger, because the older you get, the harder it is to compromise. Yeah. And so what are your thoughts around compromising with someone? And what are the things that you as a man had to compromise on?
So what you're talking about there, the self-love and really, really having your own standards. You should never compromise on that. That's really important.
Okay, talk to me about that. What should I not compromise on?
Well, how someone makes you feel. Nobody should make you feel lesser
Got it.
than you are.
Mm.
In fact, they should make you feel better than you feel about yourself, because this person is supposed to love you unconditionally, aren't they?
Yeah.
So you shouldn't compromise on that. If someone is making you feel less than, that is not your person, and you should move on.
Okay.
However, this example of you saying, "Oh, he hasn't taken out the bins," that isn't just about taking out the bins. It's the thought process about what that person, how he or she, is going to do something for you that will make you feel less stressed or make you feel better about something. So even something as small as taking out the bins is all part of a bigger brain decision, isn't it? It's about, I'm going to take out those bins because Shivani, sorry.
No, Shiv is fine.
Shiv, it will make Shiv feel better about something, or it's the best thing for Shiv to do. They're thinking about you. It's not about the bins. They're thinking about you. If you find someone who makes decisions with you in mind in a positive way, that is what you're really looking for. And someone who's going to support you in your decision making as well. But you then have to make decisions. So that person may not want to have taken out the bins, and it's, but they have, in a way, they've done a compromise because it benefits you. So the compromises I'm talking about are things that shouldn't take away from you, but may take up some of your valuable time or your valuable money or something like that. Something that is important to you, but doesn't take away from you.
Got it.
But adds to this person that you really love and really like, and supports them. And that is what the compromise is about. For example, if I don't want to go to my in-laws' house, I don't want to go because maybe the cricket's on or I'm watching Wimbledon, but I will go because I know it means a lot to my partner.
What lovely reasons you gave.
I love Wimbledon.
What diplomatic reasons you gave.
Or I'm just don't want to.
Yeah. Just don't want to see them. Yeah.
But I will go because it's
important to them.
And it's not a massive deal to me. It'll inconvenience me for half a day, let's say, but it's not the end of the world for me. And what I lose, she gains more from.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is where the compromise happens. But I'm not doing any. I would not expect her or myself to compromise anything that takes away from me, because I'm very busy with work.
Yeah,
I'm very busy with lots of things that I do, which and she is as well. And neither of us compromise on work, and neither of us expect each other to compromise.
That's a boundary you've set, which is really important.
Yeah, but those compromises might come out. What I'm talking about is small compromises that mean a lot to the other person.
In the book, you talk a lot around weddings and relationships being everyone else's business.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about that, because I know that everyone loves to be involved, but as a man, I haven't really heard it from a male perspective that everyone's so involved, because as a woman, people are very, very, very involved.
Very involved. I mean, even now, if I answer the phone at my mum's house, if the landline goes and an auntie's on the phone, the first thing she says is, "When am I coming to your wedding?" Or "When are you getting married?" And all of this kind of stuff. I'm like, "Oh, auntie, inshallah, when God wills."
Is that what you say?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I can't say, "Well, auntie, no thanks, I don't want you at my wedding." Which I don't want to say, to be fair.
Someone's told me that I wrote it the other day, because people constantly ask me when I'm getting married. And now, actually, the other day, someone asked my boyfriend, and we were together. Yeah. We went to an event. He's standing right there. It's his auntie. And she goes, "So when are you going to give me the good news?" I'm not asking the question. Bloody ask him. And anyway, he goes, "We've already done it. Did you not know?" And her face dropped. I was standing there like, and he was like, "We've already done it. Did you not know?" And she straight away looked at my hands and she goes, "Oh, you're joking, because I would have killed you if you got married without me." Yeah. What a great response.
Maybe I should try.
I was so proud of him. I was like, what a great response.
Kill me if I even joked about it. There's not a chance. But I think, what was the question?
The question was, I forgot to, societal expectation. Yeah.
There's an expectation to get married by a certain age, isn't there? There's your life map is mapped out in front of.
What was it for you?
Finish university, get married by 27, 28, children 29, 30, and then then you can live your life once you're settled, and then your life is finally your own, even though it's not, it belongs to your kids, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So that was the map, and that isn't what happened with me, and I'm quite pleased it isn't what happened with me. But I think I think societal expectations is good and bad. I like the fact that our communities are close-knit.
Yes.
I like the fact that in bad times we come together and we support each other. And I certainly found that with my dad, when he passed away many years ago, the community coming together every day at our house was packed for weeks and weeks and weeks. And that brought great comfort to my mum. And I was really grateful for it. But at the same time, because everybody's so invested in each other's lives, they feel they want what's best for you, don't they? And they think they know what's best for you.
Yes.
And I think this expectation comes from a good place.
I agree.
And they feel the kind of the vanilla story of you finding someone perfect that everybody approves of, and you get married and you have children and you add to that society and you expend that society, and then you go on to support people within that society and you move up the ranks in terms of elders and all of that stuff. I do really have a lot of time and respect for that, because I think other cultures have lost that and are paying the price for it, particularly the older communities in their cultures. And I think it's important we try and retain that. At the same time, it puts extreme pressure on young people to follow a path that was carved out in a different time.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes it difficult. We are conflicted as first generation Asian people who are born here. We are finding our own path, aren't we? And I think we're the first people to do it, and that's what makes it difficult, because we're getting bombarded from both sides. From the Western end, career is really important, and you can put things off until you're a bit older, and that's fine as well. And on the other side, you're hearing a different story, and it's so difficult, and it really does impact people's mental health. We might not talk about it as much as we should. We may not even think it's impacting our mental health, but it does. Those kind of small digs every time you get asked when you're getting married, it hurts each time.
It's in your subconscious. That's what I found this year. I've never been, I think a couple of years ago, it used to really bug me. And I did a video on it last year, and I said, can people please stop asking me? Nobody listened. That video got over 5 million views, and still none of my aunties bloody watched it. No. Great. They're saying, well done, Siobhan, doing so well on Instagram. I'm like, well, can you watch it so that you can learn from it and stop asking me? Yes. But the point is this year, when I turned 30, I really struggled, because I thought that I was somebody who perhaps wasn't bothered by the question of, when you're getting married, when you're going to buy a house, Shivani, when you're going to settle down, Shivani. I never thought those questions would impact me. And when I turned 30, I had a meltdown, because I thought, wow, I really have failed in life. I haven't got a house, I'm not married, and I don't know when I'm going to have children. I'm having all of these conversations on my podcast around egg freezing, around IVF, around how difficult it is. And all of these subtle comments that people keep telling me, don't you want to get married? Don't you want to have children? You need to focus away from your career now. You'll always have your job. Doesn't he want to get married to you? What's taking him so long? Those questions naturally are in my subconscious, and I'm having doubts about them.
Chipping away at you.
And on my 30th, I always said, when you're when you're 18, generally all my friends were going to university. When I was 21, everyone was getting a job. I turned 30 and all my friends are married, and a lot of them are trying for children. And what am I doing? My podcast, and
say it though, because from the outside looking at you, those are not the questions going through my mind. And I can't imagine for people from our generation. I see a successful, confident woman that lots of people might aspire to, rather than all those negative thoughts that you're having.
And that's the point, is that whilst I preach that and I believe that, I am conflicted, because for 30 years of my life, I've been told a narrative of what I should be, and I'm trying to create a narrative of what I could be. And so these are combining together, are putting me at a place where I don't want to conform and put pressure on my relationship and rush to do all those things. Because like you said, when you get married, there's an extra level of responsibility. And when you're younger, you're not told that it's an extra level of responsibility. You're told it's something you should do.
Yes. And in a way, they almost make it sound like you'll be relinquishing responsibility. Like first of all, they tell you they're relinquishing responsibility. Like, am I a burden that you just want to get rid of me? Number one.
Literally.
Number two, they're like, but then you can have your own life.
Then when you're married, you can that you can settle down. And I've heard so many people say to their kids, when you're married, you can travel.
Yes.
When you're married, you can do all those things. when the hell do you have the time?
Exactly.
It's impossible.
Two families to make happy. But I think the expectations are huge, but we are in a unique position, and hopefully it will be easier for future generations because we will have been there in a way our parents haven't been, and we'll understand it in a way that our parents don't. And I think we are going to have to suffer for the future generations. We are. I know I sound like a martyr.
Yeah, literally.
I mean, we're having a good time, to be fair.
I'm going to clip all the bits where you're like, I sound like this, I sound like this, I sound like this. It's just so versatile as a personality you are.
I don't know what I turned into.
Indian auntie, martyr, from Downtown Abbey. There's so many things you've brought to this podcast.
But I do think we're learning a lot of any generation that is the first to do anything. It would be so hard when our parents came over here for the first time. We often don't think about how difficult that would have been for them, and and they don't talk about it as much as we expect them to. What was it like when you first came over? What was that cultural clash like? And for us, where they were the first to do that, we're the first to grow up here with this conflict of cultures. The next generation, hopefully, will have it easier. Hopefully, not everyone. And that idea of expanding our culture, which I'm such a fan of, it might hopefully start to happen in a way that we haven't seen with our generation.
Before we close, I know there's going to be a lot of people that are watching this podcast and thinking, well, you were told that you're going to have an arranged marriage from the day you were born, basically, subconsciously. You don't even remember, but it's probably very subconscious.
I was like, I can't get a girl like that on my own. My mum will sort me out.
So funny. But you went against the grain. You had a love marriage.
I didn't intend to, though.
Okay, your mum's not watching. Don't worry. I didn't mean to, I promise. But there will be people at home that will be in a similar situation to you, that will perhaps, find it difficult to have that conversation with their parents. What tips do you have for them? And how did you have that conversation with your mum?
It was the hardest conversation I've ever had. Okay. And I put it off for years.
Why?
Because I knew it would break her heart, and I knew it would be difficult, and I knew it wouldn't be the fairy tale that you see in books and films where, they cry for a bit and then they come round when they see how happy they make me. That is what everybody told me that. Just tell her because she'll be just happy that you're happy. Like, you don't know my mother.
Did you tell people like that at uni, right?
Yeah, I told my mates.
Yeah, probably your white friends were like, she'll be happy for you.
Honestly.
You have no idea.
It took me ages to pluck up the courage. Ages and ages. I put it off and put it off and put it off to the point where it was having such a negative effect on my relationship, both with everyone really, and on myself. And then I just thought we'd just come back from B&M, and I just thought, right, now's the time to do it. So,
what triggered you in B&M?
Well, I think it was all the bargains. I don't know. Well, when I get my own house, I can have one of them.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
And I think when you plan and plan and plan to do something, you never do it, and you just have to do it. And it was horrible for about 3 years. The horribleness went on for a long, long time. It's not something that was done and dusted, and that was the end. And it was awful, but it was the best thing I ever did.
Why?
Because now I'm actually, and it sounds so contrite, but so trite. Sorry, I'm more me. I can be me. I'm not having to pretend.
Yeah.
And I'm so comfortable around my partner. Like, it's just the best thing I've ever done. It's still a bit of a thorn in my mum's side, if I'm being honest, and she's not completely there yet with it all. But she's learned to live alongside it, and that's probably as good as I can expect, and I'm okay with that. But anyone who's in that situation, and trust me, I thought it'd be easier to break off my relationship than tell my mum, and lots of people would do that.
Yeah,
and I get that, and no judgment at all, because everybody's situation is different.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody's mum could be more traditional than mine. Well, there might be, but I don't feel that way. And nobody, I didn't have the support of any of my family members really with it all. So it was very isolating. It was the thing that worked well for me is that I had somewhere to go once I'd had the conversation. So I had my own house at that point.
Right.
So I could tell my mum, try and talk it through, realize that we weren't going to get anywhere with that initial conversation, and then go, and then try and come back to it each time. I
Okay.
think what will make it really difficult is if you live with your parents and you try and
Correct.
have that conversation, because then you've got nowhere to go. Having that escape route was really valuable to me. Everybody's situation will be different. And I'm definitely not telling you what to do, because only you will know what's best for you.
Yeah.
But in my situation, I really didn't think I could do it. I thought the relationship I had was just like a bit of a romance, and then I'll get rid of it, and then I'll have an arranged marriage and it'll be fine. And I realized I couldn't do that.
What made you realize that?
Love. I was in love. And
The butterflies.
Everything. It was everything that I thought I would never have. And so I thought it was too valuable to let go of.
Yeah.
And no matter what I did, nobody would ever compare. And I thought it took me a lot of working out in my head that I was worth making that. It was worth it. I was valuable enough to make that decision for me instead of for other people.
I love that.
And that took a long, years of years and years of brain space to get to that decision. And imagining life without my partner was just not worth imagining life as. And I think that was it. And if you're in that position, God, I honestly, I can't tell you what to do, because I know how horrible it is. I know how it's all encompassing. I know how it eats away at you inside. I know how you feel like you're letting everyone around you down, your family, your partner, everyone around you down. But for me, it was the right decision to make.
Yeah. I think it's really difficult when you're in a tricky situation with confronting your parents around something that you know that they won't like. But what I will say is that self-love element that you've mentioned is so key, because there's always going to be something that your parents from a different generation who have different opinions, who have different viewpoints, are not going to like that you do. Yeah. And if you're always going to live a life that's based on what they want, you're also going to end up being really resentful towards them. And having open communication with your partner, your family, your friends, whoever it is the most important thing, because as you said, when you meet someone and you love them, right? I was probing you on those questions because I know people at home will be trying to find a tangible thing. But, every time I've met somebody and I've got butterflies, in that moment, you just know, and it's energy.
Yeah.
And if I were to not be with a person because I thought that my parents might not like it, I'm also not giving them a chance to change their perspective.
Yes.
I'm also not giving them a chance to open their minds and for them to understand that perhaps things aren't the same anymore. And so we're often very quick to make a decision for other people, like our parents, when we don't know what their response is going to be. So good on you for having that conversation with your mum, and I'm so glad that she is also supportive of it now. She's not going to be jumping off the rooftops, but she accepts it, and that's really nice. I have never laughed so much in a podcast.
Oh, good.
Honestly, it's so great, and your book is also really hilarious too. So you should have been a comedian. But anyway, everyone, this book is out in 2 days' time. Can you pre-order it?
You can pre-order it now. Yes.
You can pre-order it.
Marriage.
And if you found this podcast funny, please make sure you subscribe, like it, and follow Dr. Amir too.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for making me laugh.